Hey, it's me, Adam. I've had a few requests here to make a video about chord construction, comparing different chord types, showing what the differences are, because maybe if you're trying to learn a song, a cover song, and you buy a song book or you go online and find a chord chart, it's not always clear what chord symbols mean. And so I wanted to make a video where I could explain some of that stuff. I'm going to assume that you already know some basic stuff about intervals and scales. If you find that I'm moving too fast here, let me know. Leave a comment, and maybe I'll make a video that talks about the stuff that I'm going to skip over here. The first thing that I want to show you is a G major scale, starting here, 4th string, 5th fret. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. One more time. That's important because everything that we're going to do in this video is in the key of G, and it's right here in this area of the fretboard. And the major scale is our measuring stick. If I say that a triad has a flatted 3rd or a flatted 5th, it's all relative to where things lay in this scale. So this is G, that's the root. It can also be called the 1. A is 2, B is 3, C is 4, D is 5, E is 6, and F sharp is 7. So G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, and then we're back to G. So if I say that a G major triad has root 3, 5, that's the root, the 3rd note, and the 5th note from that major scale. So let's look at our triads. Triads are 3-note chords. We'll start there. So there's G major, and we're never going to alter the root, but we can alter the 3rd and the 5th in some different ways. If we flat the 3rd, that gives us G minor. If we flat the 3rd and the 5th, that gives us G diminished. So G major, G minor, G diminished. We can also raise the 5th. If we start with the major triad and raise the 5th, that gives us G augmented. Augmented is just shorthand for a major triad with a raised or sharped 5th. So G augmented, G major, G minor, G diminished. Now, you might think, well, we flatted the 3rd, but we didn't raise it, though we did get to go flat and sharp on the 5th. So what about sharping the 3rd? We don't get to do that because between the 3rd and the 4th in a major scale, they're right next to each other. They're a half step apart or 1 fret apart. So if we sharp the 3rd, it's really just the 4th. So we don't really get to do that, but there is such a thing as a sus chord or sus4. Those terms are kind of interchangeable. If you see a chord symbol that says G sus or G sus4, what that means is that the 4 is there instead of the 3rd. So rather than G B D, we would have G C D. That's G sus or G sus4. A less common variation is sus2, so that's 1, 2, 5. So sus4 is 1, 4, 5. Sus2 is 1, 2, 5. And in both cases, there's no 3rd. The 2 or the 4 is there instead of the 3rd. Before I go any further, I'll say I'm doing all of this in one key, in the key of G. You really, to understand this stuff fully, you need to do it in all the different keys. So once it makes sense to you in G, try it in A, or B flat, or F, or D, or any place that you can get it on the guitar, do that. Try it on another string set if you can work that out. There's also inversions where these three notes might appear in a different order. Instead of like this, you might have this. So same three note names, G, B, D, B, D, G, but this is an inversion. In this video, I don't want to get into that because that could be another whole other video on its own. So everything, I'm going to keep going here. Everything is going to stay right here. But just know that there are other keys and there are other kinds of ways that you can organize the notes. But that's the basic idea. So those are all the 3-note chords. Now let's get into 4-note chords. So G major 7, that's 1, 3, 5, 7 from the scale, again, from that major scale. 1, 3, 5, 7. So let's just start moving stuff around. We can flat the 7, and that gives us G7. And sort of like the third, there's a half step between 3 and 4, and a half step between 7 and the root. So we're not going to sharp the root, but we're not going to sharp the 7 because it's going to step on the root, but we can flat the 7. So that's how we get G7. If we flat 3 and 7, we get G minor 7. So that's B flat and F natural. We could also make G minor 7 flat 5. So G minor 7, and this note here, the D is the 5, we can flat that and we get G minor 7 flat 5. Sometimes that's called G half diminished. Half diminished and minor 7 flat 5s are two different names for the same chord type. Then there's a fully diminished 7th, G diminished 7th, and that's kind of a special thing because the 7 is actually flatted twice. So diminished 7th is a diminished triad with a double flat 7. So we're going to call this F flat. Looks like E, sounds like E, but in this particular case, because the formula for diminished 7th is root flat 3, flat 5, double flat 7, we would call this F flat on top. Funny, right? So those are the common chord types. Oh, there's also G minor major 7, so that's a minor triad with a major 7. We can also make 4-part chords with other added notes like the 6th, so we could make G6 or G major 6. That's just the G triad with 6 on top. Now this is E, it's not F flat, it's E because it's the 6th. G, A, B, C, D, E. We're adding 6 on top, so that's G6. You can also have G minor 6. Another type of 4-note chord that we see sometimes is add 9. So G add 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Root again, and then this is 2, but because it's an octave above where we started, or one note more than an octave actually, we can call that a 9. That indicates that it's farther up. It's not the 2, it's the 9. So we could have add 9, G add 9. That's different than G9. G9 is a dominant chord type, like with the flat 7 and the 9. So if we were to try to stack that all up, it's pretty hard to play all of it. That would really be G9 if we were starting from the root and going up. But that's not what G add 9 is. G add 9 is major triad, 9 on top. G minor add 9 is the same. It's not G minor 9, which would be G minor 7 with the 9. It's just G minor triad with the 9 on top. One other chord type here that it's not technically a 4-note chord, but is often rendered as such, is 6/9, G6/9. That would be G major we would replace the 5 with the 6, and we'd put the 9 on top. So that sounds like this. And it could also be made minor, G minor 6 9. So there you go. I've probably left some things out. I've probably said too much about other things. I've done my best to make this a concise video about chord construction and comparing different chord types. Let's start a conversation from here. What would you like to see more detail on? And I'll make a video on that. I hope you found this very helpful. I hope that you will continue to explore. And thanks for watching.